Now, as we've been hearing this morning, the former First Lady and mother of George W. Bush, Barbara Bush, has died. She was 92. She's the only woman to have witnessed both her husband and son sworn in as President of the United States.
Mrs. Bush campaigned on a number of issues during her long life in politics. Joining us now from Washington is Anneke E, former speechwriter for President George W. Bush. Morning to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. I mean, she had enormous influence, didn't she, in many ways? Just talk to us a little bit about that.
She really did, and my former boss, George W. Bush, as president, he talked about how of all the members of his family, all of his siblings, he's the one who was most like his mother. So if you want to know what she was like, you know, she wasn't in public life quite as much as he was. Just look at him. His sense of humor, his quick wit tells you a lot about what kind of household he grew up in.
And she was the first wife of a candidate to speak in support of their husband. So in some ways as well, that and other ways, a trailblazer.
Yes, very much so. A trailblazer, and yet she was also criticized for maintaining a traditional role as a spouse. She came from a generation where the role of wife and mother was as high as a woman tried to aspire. She left college to marry H.W. Bush during World War II. He was a Navy pilot, and then later that was somewhat controversial. Later during the presidency and beyond, when women from her college were saying, well, you left college, why should you speak to us? And yet she said, well, I still have things to say.
And also the importance of family was kind of key, wasn't it, in many of the things she talked about?
Absolutely, and she felt that she lived a very fulfilling life, being a wife and mother, and you could see that in her interests as First Lady. As she was very interested in literacy, she established a foundation to help children with leukemia because she tragically lost a child to leukemia when she was 28 and the child was 3. And so she did have that focus and earned the reputation for being a sort of grandmotherly type figure in the United States, although she was not a kind of warm and cuddly. Like, she was very quick to tell people when they got out of line, even if they were grown men and also President of the United States.
Very interesting. Did you witness that at all? But also she talked, didn't she, a lot about racial segregation. This was an important message for her.
It really was, and in some ways she was ahead of her time in that way. And I think if she had stayed longer in the White House than just one term, we would have seen more policies coming out of that.
What do you think her legacy will be?
That's really interesting. So she had talked, it's very funny, she was very plain spoken. So during the 2016 election, for example, before Jeb Bush, one of her sons, George W. Bush's brother, declared that he was running for president, she actually said, based on speculation, well, I think there have been enough Bushes, we don't need to have any more, which isn't something you would necessarily say in public. Once he ran, she was very supportive. And I think that her legacy is that you can be the wife or the spouse nowadays of a very powerful politician, but that doesn't mean you give up your own views. And we saw that model followed by Laura Bush, who had her own views on issues, sometimes at variance with President George W. Bush, but that didn't undercut her support for her spouse or her role as First Lady.
Very interesting to hear from you. Anneke E. Thank you very much for your time here. Thank you.
Thank you.